Welcome to Season 4, Episode 10 of Headstrong. This episode is brought to you by Pure Sport CBD. Pure Sport CBD have the highest quality CBD available. All of their products go through the most rigorous and advanced testing protocols in the world, where they actually get 2 different third-party companies to test every single batch, which means all of their products are of the highest quality on the market. As a Headstrong listener, you can get 20% off their products, excluding their bundles on their website, using the code Headstrong20. CBD, I hear you ask. If you're new to it, you're probably wondering, why would I buy CBD? Well, let me tell you, I'm actually a user of CBD myself, and it has greatly increased my sleeping patterns and just recovery. It's magnificent, but I will explain that more later on in the show. To go check out the website, it's puresportcbd.com, and the code for 20% off for Headstrong listeners is Headstrong20. And if you're not listening in the UK, don't worry, Pure Sport CBD ship worldwide. For only $6.99, you can get your CBD shipped anywhere at puresportcbd.com. Hello and welcome to my next episode of Headstrong. My name is Louis Strong and I host this show. Now, Headstrong is a podcast where I invite a variety of well-known individuals to engage in discussions about their upbringings, their drives and their careers, but also their vulnerabilities to inspire listeners to understand what it means to be headstrong. Now, for me, this means believing in yourself, overcoming barriers, and reinforcing self-worth. However, part of this is up to the guest to interpret what headstrong means to them, to inspire, influence, and motivate you, the listener. Joining me on today's episode is the wonderful actor, Denise Richards. Now, Denise was zooming in from California, and we sat down and we had a good old chat about all things about her life and career. Without wanting to give away too much, I'm just going to let us dive straight into the conversation on this one. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. Denise, thank you so much for joining me on Headstrong. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, my absolute pleasure. I mean, I've been kindly introduced to you by not only one, but 2 previous guests on Headstrong, being Dominic Anderson and Jane Seymour. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have got one quick question from Dominic. He literally said, what is it like working with him?
I loved working with him. He's so positive and happy, and he's a breath of fresh air. He's a lot of fun. He's a hard worker, super committed. And I hope we work together again very soon, because I really enjoyed working with a lot.
Well, I know that he's going to put that on his kind of reviews reel. But now, of course, we do. I don't know how much you know and how much Dominic actually told you, but we do share a credit together in Glow in Darkness. I was lucky enough to go out there, and I shared some scenes with Jane. Unfortunately, not with you. I was a bit gutted about that. But how have you found that experience working throughout the pandemic then?
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful that I was able to work during the pandemic. Obviously, many people weren't and still aren't back to work. So for that, I am very grateful. It was surreal traveling overseas. It's such a different experience. It's crazy, but we were there to still continue. We have a job to do and we want to finish it. And so I'm very grateful for that. But it's very different, working with each other, and especially with actors when you're having to even just wear a mask, rehearsing. There's so much that you react off of each other, and body, different things you're thinking and feeling, and to not be able to have that full experience until we're actually doing a take, and getting into the rhythm of it. It's very different. But I'm very grateful that we're back working.
So then, just picking up from that, then did it affect your kind of approach to how you approach your acting work then? Because it's obviously completely different to your every credit that you've ever done before.
I think these are circumstances, obviously, none of us ever in our lifetime have ever had to deal with. So it's very unfamiliar. So the approach was very, it's a little unsettling, and you feel a little, at least I did, feeling a little unsteady and, and having to be, when you work on a set and you're working with a group of people, whether it's a movie or a TV show, and you spend so much time with everyone, and especially being on location, we get very close with each other, and we love to socialize and have fun, and we have to, be close with each other on set. And so when circumstances change where you have to be very respectful of distance and this and that, it's very unfamiliar for actors to be in that environment.
Totally. Now, who do you play in the show, and what drew you to such a production? Because it's obviously a Spanish production, and also, again, unfamiliar territory, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, I play Countess Champagne, and I am such a fan of our director of photography, Jose Luis Alcaine. And then the day after Christmas a year ago, I did a Zoom call with the director, Jose. And I immediately loved his passion. And I thought, you know what, this is fun. It's something I've never done before. And I've known Jane, so I knew she was doing it too, and thought that could be fun too, playing her daughter. And I'm so grateful I did it. And I was there up until literally the day before flights were canceled, leaving Spain, coming back to Los Angeles right when all the lockdown happened. And thank God that myself and one of the other actors, we were able to get out. But, it's just this, the project has been really wonderful, and we've had such epic locations and very fun, a lot of fun costumes and wigs and stuff like that. And it's fun. It's make believe. It's being, going to a party and stuff and having fun with it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as you said there, though, you are living in LA at the moment, down on the west coast of the USA, which means you did spend a lot of time away from home. And that's an interesting one as an actor. How do you tackle spending a lot of time away from home, and indeed away from the people that you love and care about most in your own close circle of friends and family?
That's been basically my whole adult life I've been on location so many times working, and my family knows that's just part of it. Obviously over the years, especially when my daughters were a lot younger, I had to pick and choose when I was going to be doing that, and didn't want to spend too much time away. And if they weren't able to come with me, I had to make that decision. But as they're getting older, and my youngest also getting a little older, there's opportunities, and I want to be able to still do that. I love, and they just know, oh, mom's going to be gone for this. And, and my older ones are teenagers anyway. So even though they say, oh, we want you home, times I will say, they're like, they won't even notice if I'm here or not.
Oh my word. You can rely on the teenagers, can't you? Totally. So where are you? So you're currently out in LA at the moment. What are you currently shooting?
I also work on a soap called Bold and Beautiful, and we were the first production in Los Angeles to be back up and running after COVID. So I shoot quite a few episodes a week doing that, and then I've done other jobs in between, which it's nice to see that everyone's starting to open up a bit more and get back into working, which is great.
I mean, you're such a busy person. You have constantly something going on. And actually, I said exactly the same to Jane. You're just so busy, which is incredible and it's wonderful. But how do you find the time to unwind? What do you do to just go, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to have a couple of hours here for myself. What do you do to just let your hair down?
It depends. It depends where I'm at. If I'm on location, I love, my favorite thing being on location is the camaraderie with the cast and the crew. And for all of us at the end of the day to be able to, go out and have dinner and drinks and hang out and just have fun. I love that. When I'm at home, I love, my husband and we love spending time with each other too. And we're, he's my best friend and we're obviously very close. So anytime he and I can sneak away and have our adult time and do that or with the kids doing different things. So it just depends.
I bet you've got some good stories about having a few late night drinks on location. Have you ever turned up the next day and feeling a little bit worse for wear?
No, I'm very careful with that. I don't overdo it because no.
Good.
You have to be professional, show up, look good. And I'm talking about at the end of the week on a Friday night. And even at that, I still don't want to do too much anyway. But it's just nice having especially with a lot of us, if we're all away from home, our families and friends outside of our film or television show, it's nice to have that camaraderie. And it's more about just unwinding instead of,
no, of course,
going the other way.
You've got to let your hair down. And, ultimately, as you said, it is the balance between, it's your job.
I'm too old for that. So it's more about just unwinding and having fun and just hanging out and just talking all night. I love that.
Oh, I love it. Sitting around the campfire. Now, Denise, I have to talk to you about how many acting credits you actually have to your name, because I'm just keep scrolling down IMDb. I'm not sure I think my mouse is now broken from how much scrolling I've had to do. But it's incredible to be speaking to someone like you. But before we dive into the specifics of your career and some of those credits, I wanted to just ask you a piece of advice. What would you say to someone, a young individual? In fact, what would you say to me getting into the industry? Because I'm 24, I've got a couple of credits to my name. What would your piece of advice be at this stage?
I quite frankly, the business has changed so much since when I started. Obviously, social media wasn't around, and it's very different. All I say is, if whatever your dream is, keep it on. And anytime reject all the rejections, that one job made up for being told no. So that's what I would say. If this is where your heart and soul is, don't let anyone tell you no. Just keep on pursuing your dream. And I think that's all you can do.
I love it. Let's rewind then. Let's have a look at your childhood. You were not necessarily born into the creative industries by any stretch. Can you just paint a picture for me then, where you were born and what that was like? And indeed, we'll get onto it, but how you actually fell into the creative industries.
I was actually born in Illinois, and, smaller town. It definitely was not around the industry at all. But it was, acting was always something that I was very wanting. I loved movies. But I never thought that was something possible because of where I was, growing up and being raised. And then my father, he worked for a phone company and often had to be outside, and the weather can be very cold in Chicago. So he decided to move our family to California, where the sun was shining, and when I was in high school. And then I started modeling when I was a teenager, but acting was always something I wanted to pursue. And I was able to then eventually get an acting agent. And I played a lot younger than my age. So I was able to book some of the little jobs where they didn't have to worry about hours, how many hours I was working or school and stuff like that. And it was a great way for me to start building my resume as I was pursuing, going out on pilots, movies and stuff like that, which I did quite a few pilots, which they did not go to series. One was for Aaron Spelling, and we thought for sure, and it was during the height of Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place. So we thought for sure ours was going to get picked up, and it didn't. And then I got Starship Troopers. And then that's when, things changed.
And
sometimes it takes just start changing your career. And for me, that was what it was.
It really was. But before we go into that, I want to have a look at your time at high school. How do you reflect on your time at school then? I mean, was work at the top of your page, or were there other interests? I mean, what kind of crowds were you hanging around?
Well, I had a job because I had to pay for my car. And, I worked at Haagen-Dazs ice cream was one of my first jobs, scooping ice cream. I've worked at grocery stores. So, my sister and I we were raised to be workers. We have to work. So I grew up, I grew up after my freshman year is when we moved to California, and we lived very close to a surfer town. So a lot of people, kids hanging out at the beach and doing all that. But most of the kids, we have to work if we wanted to have a car and have our clothes and all that kind of thing. And so that's what I had to do.
So do you think it's kind of been instilled in you to have that sort of work ethic from a very young age?
Absolutely. I did not come from money. My parents are hard workers. And they raised my sister and I to be very hard workers. So I've always been that way.
Were you a sports fan as well?
Wait, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Were you a sports fan as well?
I think I'll watch a game, but I wasn't. My dad was not the dad that was always in front of the TV every Sunday watching football or, my mom did love baseball. So we did go to some baseball games, obviously at Wrigley Field and stuff like that. But, I wasn't raised with brothers, so I wasn't around that a lot.
For sure.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Now, I'm curious to see where acting fitted in then, because a lot of people from a young age at school use acting kind of as a place for expression, and not only as a group of friends, and as you used the word earlier, camaraderie. Absolutely. I'm wondering, because you seemed like to be a confident, bubbly, beautiful person when you were growing up, and so what was drama just another feather to your cap, I suppose?
I think I was always creative, wanting to, when my sister and I were younger, we loved to, put on just when we were really little, just different plays and stuff like that. I just think I always had a creative side of me that was just different than, and plus I was never the type that's a very structured, 9 to 5 career. My sister's different. It would probably drive her crazy having my career where sometimes you don't know when you're going to work or when your job is. And then when you do have the job, you don't know what time your call time is until they wrap that night. And sometimes people that are very close to me don't understand. They're like, well, what time you're working? I'm like, I don't know. When they wrap, they'll tell me my call time's tomorrow. So they get the turnaround for everyone. So I'm so used to that. And dates change and travel changes. I'm very spontaneous, and I love having an open schedule a lot of times and not knowing what comes up next. I find it exciting. A lot of times it's that big surprise that's amazing. And sometimes you hear, bad news too, and that's okay. It makes you stronger. But I've always just been more of the very carefree, spirited, very spontaneous. So when acting, I took drama classes in school. And then when I started modeling when I was in high school, but I always wanted to act. And so I started, taking classes and that kind of thing. And then, got an agent.
I've got to go for it. What's the most spontaneous thing you've ever done?
Oh, I've had so many. I mean, not crazy. Like, it's just, I'm the type of, we say, we could leave tomorrow to go somewhere. Da, da, da. I'd be like, great. I'm not like, well, wait a second. I've got to schedule this, and this. I think, okay, if I'm working or not. All right, great. Let's go. I don't need a rigid schedule. And actually that would, I prefer having I love doing different jobs. I love meeting different people and being around it and going to, my job has allowed me to travel all over the world and meet so many different people and film in amazing locations. And I'm so blessed that I get to do that. So it's incredible to have all those opportunities.
It is. It's incredible. I absolutely agree with that part of being able to travel and just meet new people. And it's sometimes a lot of people. They're not built out for that kind of line of work, and people do need that schedule and structure. And
right. And I understand it. And sometimes I wish I was like that.
Yeah, exactly. It can get us into trouble running away here, there, and everywhere, can't it?
Yeah. Well, no. It's more about. I don't know. I always just think it's fun. I actually, at the end of big projects and stuff, it's so hard saying goodbye to everyone because you get so close and you're with each other more than your friends and family, the hours, because they're long. And especially if you're on location, you're staying, close together. And so you become close. So sometimes it's hard even saying goodbye. And it's so great then over the years of my career, the paths that I've crossed with different people. And so that's always fun too. And you work with different people, crew members and actors and directors and producers and stuff like that. And then some people, you never see them again. And that's so hard. Like I'm the hardest person to say goodbye. I hate saying goodbye to people. I just say, I'll see you later.
Always the last one at the party.
Well, I just don't, I don't know. I'm very sentimental and I get close and, I love to have fun with people. And I find myself being, I'm an easygoing person and just like to have fun and keep things. And, at the end of a shoot, it's sad. For me, it's like, it's very bittersweet. It's obviously great for me to go home to my family, obviously, but it's hard to say goodbye to the people that you spent so much time with, getting close to and working with.
Now, being British myself, there's a role that I need to talk about immediately. Being you taking part in, of course, one of the biggest franchises in the world, James Bond, and you were one of the characters in The World Is Not Enough. Now, I need to talk about your character, Christmas Janes, because the character itself is a scientist. And you have previously spoken about this, touched on this before, but I want to talk to you about how do you think that role would stand up today? Because it's received criticism being, an intelligent scientist being paired with the outfits being worn today. Would that stand up in kind of 21st century? Because it almost feels like it's so woke now, and like people would have something to say, and it's almost so unnecessary.
I think with the Bond movie, it would stand up because that's a Bond girl, and Bond, even though it is that, it's still a timeless movie.
Yeah, I'm pleased that you've said that and have defended the franchise there.
I think if I had done something else, it would have disappointed real true Bond fans because that's the Bond girl. No one wants to see me in the lab coat and, super conservative and being what would be a typical and stereotypical scientist. Although I think a female scientist, if she wants to wear little hot pants and a tank top, then go for it. Who cares? It doesn't mean you're less smart.
Completely agree. I mean,
what can a woman wants to wear? Totally.
Is there something that you do before you take on every role? Is there? Do you have like you've said yourself that you're spontaneous, but is there like a list of things that you want to tick, that you want to get out of a role, or you just enjoy the experience of something new?
Oh, I don't pre-plan. Like, okay, I want to. First of all, every project is different, and every experience is different. For myself, all I want to be able to be an open actor and have an experience with other actors that I'm working with. And I've been so blessed working in my career, and then especially on Glow in Darkness with all these actors. It's so amazing working with them, especially recently. When you're being vulnerable and open, and you trust each other, and just have fun. I mean, when it stops being fun, I'm very lucky. I'm doing a job that I love. So that I do not take for granted. And I'm very, very blessed. So I want to have the experience. And obviously oftentimes there's anxiety. Am I going to, how it's like the first day of school with everyone at times, and getting to know the rhythm with everyone and personalities. But it's fun. I like that.
So before you go onto a job, then is it the day before the first day? You feel a bit anxious about going onto that job, do you?
Sleep the night before the first day, especially.
Really? Is that are there any techniques that you use, or any kind of breathing exercises or anything that help with your own anxiety?
No, I mean, it's not crazy anxiety. It's just like that. It's actually an excited nervousness, I would say, more than anxiety. It's like, it's exciting. And then it's, you get a little nervous, but it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, actually. And just making sure, like, oh, what if I don't remember all my lines, tomorrow? That's the night before. But it's I actually enjoy it. I still like that.
You've worked with some of the biggest names in the world now, and you yourself are an enormous name as well. But I'm not even going to start name dropping with how many people that you've worked with. But I'm curious to ask you, is there anyone that you would still be starstruck by if you worked with them?
Oh, gosh, all the time. I mean, I'm not going to drop names either. There's a lot. Yeah, of course. I'm a fan too. Just because I do a job that's in entertainment doesn't mean I'm not a fan of other actors.
What kind of shows are you watching at home then?
Well, during the pandemic, I think we've all watched a lot of stuff. I've been watching, right now I started watching a lot of, I love home improvement shows and cookies. And I just finished watching Giada and Bobby in Italy, which was so fun to watch. I thought, okay, maybe we could go to Tuscany next time. It's like, so I like different things.
Are you still auditioning for things now, or is it now a matter of being asked for jobs? Because you've got so many fantastic credits to your name. I'm just curious as to know how that works with you and your agent.
Both, actually. I did have an audition not that long ago for a voiceover. But I do, I get offers, but then stuff comes up where they want me to audition, and I'll audition.
What's your approach to auditioning? Because starting out in careers, there's a lot of rejection when it comes to auditioning. Well,
it's now we put ourselves on tape. So my husband helps film. It's I don't like auditioning, but then I think, you know what, maybe this is better. I don't walk in the room, but it's the approach is to just make a choice, whether it's right or wrong. I've learned, first of all, I think, when you walk into a room, whether they want you or not, people, if they're me at all, would know different things that I can do if they want me to do that. I do take direction well. So I think that my approach is, if it's, now there's no one to even give any feedback, I just voice whatever. And I think you just commit to it, and it's whatever. It's very, there's no casting director and producers right there that can say, hey, can you try it this way? So it's different.
This episode is brought to you by Pure Sport CBD. Now, CBD is relatively new in the grand scheme of things. Customers have reported increased levels of concentration, improved abilities to relax and meditate, but, as I was mentioning earlier, most importantly, improves sleep recovery. Recovery is incredibly important, and if you are struggling to sleep, CBD might be the perfect place for you to start. What you do is you can put it under your tongue at night, put a few drops under there, and you just let it do the work. As I said, I've been using it myself for a while, and I've just seen significant improvements in my sleep. You know, the ability to drift off quicker and actually stay asleep and just recharge my batteries, waking up fresh every single day. So go check out puresportcbd.com and use the code Headstrong20 for 20% off.
Definitely. Now, I'm curious to ask you, whilst we're talking about your acting credits, of course, you've been involved in the massive show, The Real Housewives, and that gave you an opportunity to show who you are, not the characters that you play. How did you feel about going on the show and, you know, how do you cope with the spotlight on yourself nowadays? Because you've grown up with it for sure, and I totally understand that. But how do you manage it? Because there's certainly so much that you want people to know, I anticipate.
I don't. When you say how do you manage? I don't know. You don't. I don't read a bunch of stuff because I think that can be very negative for anyone. I think media is amazing for so many things, but it's also can be something detrimental, especially for our youth. And that's something that I struggle with my own kids. But as far as Housewives, I loved the show. I was a fan of the show, and I thought, you know what? This is something different. Why not? Let's have fun. Let's do it. I'm not like thinking how I'm going to manage it or anything like that. I think once you start and you're in this career and when people start to recognize who you are, you have to, in my opinion, just try to, block out the noise. Because if we keep listening to all the noise, it's not, in my opinion, I don't think it's that healthy. And I think just be true to who you are and, block out everything, and it is what it is.
I can only imagine you're an absolutely wonderful mother with your kids, but just picking up from that there then, do you chat to them about social media and how they use it and things like that?
Absolutely. And it's, it's a struggle because I tried to wait as long as possible. They were the last of their peer group to get it because I would shut it down all the time. And they were smarter than me with those, parent apps and figuring out how to get it off the phone. And it's hard. And I don't know. I feel like a hypocrite, and I explained to them, I'm an adult and it's very hard for the youth, I believe, to be growing up with this. So it's a struggle. And I know I'm not the only parent dealing with it.
It's amazing how it can be compared to when, a matter of years ago, it didn't even exist. And it's crazy to think that.
I think, and it probably to them, it's like, well, the olden days when it didn't exist. But I think it's detrimental. I really do. I mean, there's so much negativity on there and what these kids have to, live up to and stuff like that. It's not easy, but it's the world we're living in and something that they're going to be having to navigate through too. But I try to explain to, I worry, I have girls and even boys too would have to worry about this too, but there's just so many, there's a lot of, not the greatest people sometimes out there. And so you just worry as a parent. I'll always worry. I'll worry until the very end. So it is what it is.
What is your approach to parenting now? You seem like a very liberal, free spirit as you come across in everything that you do, but you seem to have that kind of concern. So how do you find your balance as well?
Well, I'm also very conservative too, believe it or not. I was raised in a very traditional environment, and I was raised by Catholic parents who were also supportive of gay marriage. So it's like that's what I was raised by, parents who weren't judgmental but still wanted us to do what's right as a human being. And so, yes, even though I am a spontaneous and I am liberal, but I'm also, I don't let my kids just do whatever they want. Why have parents then? And that's as getting older and being teenagers, and that's what I've explained to them. One day they'll understand, because that's the fine line too, as they're maturing from kids to young adults. It's a transformation. I understand that, but we have rules. There's rules, because we can have a housekeeper. We still pick up after ourselves. We still clean up. We still do this. We do. It's not like, and it's very hard, especially in Los Angeles, and especially in our environment and what we do. You sometimes get some things that you want, and it's that trying to find that thing of not being entitled. And it's like, no, we're all the same. We're here. We all work. We all do this. No one's here. No one's there. Like, we help. So I'm a bit of a stickler with that.
Well, I'm curious to ask you, because it's, as you say, it's having daughters. They're so precious to you, and they are a part of you. And what were you feeling at the time of your demise with your relationship with Charlie? Were you just putting you and your family first, you and your girls? Because, as you say, you're 6 months pregnant, and it's a stressful time already being pregnant. So did you just have to eliminate the issue?
Well, it was a marriage that wasn't working. So I made a choice to get it, not be in the marriage. And shortly after our youngest daughter was born, we reconciled briefly, and, it wasn't meant to be. And so for myself, what I wanted to always maintain was not have kids be privy to any discord between us parents. That was my main goal. Just because he and I weren't meant to be husband and wife, that doesn't mean any negative feelings, any animosity in my opinion, should never affect. I never would talk badly about him. I would always tell Charlie if we had a birthday to go to, or we were to see each other at a dinner, I always invited him to every family thing. Just let's put on a smile, act like nothing in front of the kids, because it's not fair to them. They don't need to know any negativity between the parents. And that's something that I've always worked really, really hard. And it is hard to do, and that's when people come ask me a lot of times about this subject, about divorce, and not just in interviews, but when people, women come up to me, or lots of messages, especially on social media, they ask me, how did you get through your divorce, and dealing also with your ex? And I always say, make it about the kids. They need to feel so loved so that they don't feel anxious, insecure. There's enough stuff in our world that's going to cause anxiety and insecurity. Turn on the news, all that. At the home of the child should be their sanctuary, whether it's the mom or the dad. And I just feel that that's what they deserve. They don't deserve to be born into any, discord and animosity, or be on the receiving end of it. And, whether people agree with me or not, that's how I feel. And I feel that, in my opinion, for myself and my kids, that's the best thing that I was able to do.
Although you do put as you say, you put your kids first, and rightly so, in any divorce, that is absolutely correct. And I know that it is a taboo subject quite often in pop culture, and people do struggle to talk about it. So it's great that you are openly able to reflect on your own experiences from it. But there must have been, there's some time when often you probably have to lean on other people as well, because it's okay to put the kids first no matter what. But did you have a good support circle yourself?
Well, yeah, no, I had and also obviously there was so much stuff that was very public. So of course I had my close, intimate group to be able to talk about. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that, I have no words for it, but aside from that, it's dealing with not having the respect for the other parent, no matter what's going on in the family.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, moving on to something absolutely wonderful is, of course, that you took the motherhood route into adoption as well. And that is a long process. In fact, yours, I think, took about 2 years. And I'm curious as to how you got into that, what your motivation was for adoption, and indeed how that journey was.
I've always wanted to adopt. And it was a 1.5-year process. And I just knew I wasn't done, having kids. And I thought, I'm going to continue on with my life, even though I'm not married. And I thought whatever is meant to be will be. And I believe that we choose our parents. I feel my daughter Eloise, it feels like I had her. She just found me a different way than my older girls. So it was just something that I've always wanted to do. I don't know. I love it. I love the connection that my older daughters had, is immediately feeling like I, gave birth to her. It doesn't matter whether I gave birth or not physically. It's, she just found me as a mother, just different than, my older girls.
Totally. Now, you are such a wonderful human in another way as well, in the sense that you do a lot of charity work. Now, that's not everyone does lots of charity work. And I'm curious as to know why you have such a passion and drive for so many charities as well. It's such a vast array of charities that you do like to raise awareness for and raise money for. So where does that passion come from?
I've been like this, I feel, since I was a kid. I do a lot of stuff with animals, and I was always the kid that if there was a stray dog, it would find me. And I would, beg my mom to help me find the owner. And I volunteered a lot when I was really little at different places. I just always, I don't know. My mom, before she had passed away, she would always say that's just how I was. I just, I like to help. I like to give back. And especially, I believe too, when you do anything that can create a platform in a media, you have to use it. Whatever your passion and cause is, on some level, whatever it is, use it to give back and to raise awareness. But I love animals, and I love, helping people and kids, all of it. We have to help.
It's really lovely. It's really, really lovely. I mean, there's something that I did want to talk to you about, and please definitely say if you're not comfortable talking about it. But something that I'm trying to become better at talking about is grief, because it's an absolute taboo in the modern era, because it is something that every single individual has to go through, and it's something that there's a complete lack of support of, and because not many people know how to deal with it or tackle with it. And you sadly did lose your mother, and I'm curious to know how you tackle grief and what we can do as individuals and as a society to tackle that taboo and actually celebrate the lives of these people.
All I can say is it's, I was so close to my mom, and she passed away when she was 53 years old. There's not a day that goes by that I don't miss her. I think what I've learned is learning to live with the loss, what it is for me. But it's not easy. I don't know. It's the unknown. And it's especially, I think, when it's a parent, because when we come into this world, our parents are there. And, my mom was there for me. I never knew life before my mom. So to have to continue life without her, she was the rock for our whole family, for me. And it's hard. It is hard. Even now, it's been, let's see, she passed away in 2007. So, it doesn't get easier, but you just learn to live with the loss. You learn to live life without that person being there. So that part, I guess, in a sense, gets easier as far as the day to day.
And you have to...
I struggle with it myself at times.
Of course, but you have to, as you say, you do learn to live with it, but you cherish the glorious memories, and you remember everything that was so special and dear about that individual, and that's what's so important.
Absolutely, and I think if you are still at times, or you're aware, they definitely give you signs that they're around, and many people tell me she's always with me, and she is. But there's times I'm like, but I want her here physically. I want to hug her, and I want to, have conversations. And, even though I still will talk to her out loud once in a while too, still, it's not the same, but it's, they are close. And, I will say, when here's how I describe having my daughters, giving birth to a child. It is a love you've never experienced. It's so deep. I say the same with death. It is loss you've never experienced before. It's so deep. And with my daughters, when they were born, I felt like my senses you learn to stop and smell the rose, and you see different things through their eyes. With losing my mom, I felt like, and like, I would love harder. I would be angry more. I would be happy more. I felt like it deepened my heart in an odd way that I can't explain other than that I just felt like, I don't know. And you also have to, I think, when you lose a parent, especially one you're close to, you have to literally grow up. I was like, well, I don't have to up anymore. I have to do it. So even though I have my dad, and I love my dad so much, and we're so close, I don't know what else goes, but it's a hard thing, and everyone deals with it.
They do indeed. Now, Denise, that brings me on to one of the questions that I ask all my guests that come on the show. What does the word headstrong mean to you?
Well, headstrong, I think, to me, means you're very opinionated, and you are set in your ways and your values and what you want.
Thank you, Denise. Well, look, you have been absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate you chatting to me today. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all the very best. Wish you a successful 2021. And of course, it was your birthday the other day, so late happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Still only 21. I don't know how you do it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much to Pure Sport CBD for sponsoring this episode with Denise Richards. If you're interested in some more information on CBD and what it might do for you, there's a magnificent quiz at Pure Sport CBD if you're completely new to it. If you're not new to it, there's a variety of bundles to get all the best quality products from Pure Sport CBD. Be sure to use the code Headstrong20 for 20% off on their website. Thank you to Pure Sport CBD. And that concludes the 10th episode of the 4th series of Headstrong with the magnificent Denise Richards. I just want to extend my thanks to Denise for coming onto this show. I really, really appreciate it. What a wonderful human being and what a terrific outlook on life. I wish her all the best in 2021. Now, thank you very much to you, the listener, for clicking on the podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you have enjoyed the show, please do leave a rating and a review, and indeed subscribe to the show and share it with whoever you might think might enjoy the show. I will see you next week for another episode of Headstrong.